All right, hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. It's Greg LaBeouf here with you. We have Coach Dustin, Coach Brad. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me again tonight. And listen, tonight, episode number 49, we are going to talk about, I've titled this one, Faster Than Billy the Kid. Tonight, we're going to talk about speed and the role that it plays when it comes to training and preparing for violence. Back in 30 seconds. Stick with us. Hey, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg LaBeouf, and I'm sharing insights for how I went from the victim of a brutal attempted murder to weaponizing my mind and body, mastering the tool of violence so that I can protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault, and how for the past 30 years, I've been helping good people just like you do the same. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Okay, all right, I said faster than Billy the Kid. Listen, this is my opening line for this. If you had a modern day gunfighter, right? So, we all, you hear the tales back in the day, Billy the Kid, you had the gunfighter was the fastest draw, the quick draw. Now, obviously, we understand that there's other factors, but that became the whole allure, right? He's the fastest draw. Yeah, you'd have meet you at noon and they had the shootout in the street. So listen, faster than Billy the Kid. If you had a modern day gunfighter, the quickest draw would not be the best gunfighter. Okay, and of course I'm drawing a parallel to modern day violence. So the quickest or the best gunfighter today in the present would be the person that reads the sequencing of violence the quickest. Okay, and that's the analogy, and that's my jump off point, right? You see, most people, again, it's like, we talk about this all the time, strategy, tactics, and then tools. Strategy first, then the tactics that allow you to successfully implement those strategy, and then the tool. Well, when we talk about tools, right, people will talk about, what's the best technique? Is it an elbow? Is it an arm bar? Is it an omoplata? Is it a triangle choke? Is it an eye gouge? What's the best tool? But the tool is not what's really important. And when they talk about tools, they'll also talk about attributes. And of course, you have let's say the pinnacle attributes, right? Speed, power, strength, durability, body mechanics. And these are obviously important attributes, but speed is often always at the top when people talk. The guy's super fast. How do I get faster? Of course, they love to talk power, strength, all that, athleticism, all that stuff. But my analogy is that, maybe back in the day, you could just be the quickest on the draw, right? So you'd wait, you'd march 5 paces, spin around, you'd wait for the clock to strike 12, whatever it was, and you just literally, whoever could draw that gun faster. Now, of course, accuracy obviously was going to play a role in that, because you could be super fast but not accurate. But the analogy of just, you had the quickest draw. Get the gun out first, get off the first shot, and 9 out of 10 times you're going to win that. Well, modern day violence is not this dueling. Right? It's not, listen, I'll fuck you, slap him with the glove. I'll meet you on the fucking street when the clock strikes 12. We're going to fucking pull our guns and we're going to draw down on each other and we'll see who wins. Okay? Violence doesn't ask. There is no cooperation. So my analogy is that the Billy the Kid of today doesn't need to have the best attributes. You don't have to have the best tools. So just to stick with it, right? You don't need to have the best gun. You don't need to be the fastest, and yet you can still be a dominant gunslinger. You can still be the guy. You know what I mean? You can still survive this thing. And how is it? Because you're the quickest to read the sequencing of violence. Where I got this analogy was the other day I was doing a private, and I was talking to our client, and we're just having this conversation. And in almost every private I teach, I'm always talking about context determines the content, right? So the context of the situation determines the content. But what I really recognized and what I really had to dive deep on in this private was helping the individual to really understand and how to read the context. And it became super clear to me, right? Like, listen, I've been doing this for 30 years. And every now and then what happens is I'll be working with somebody, and we've had many conversations with this client. I've had many conversations about the context and reading the pre-incident indicators. But at a certain point, we've covered it, we talk about it, we train it, and we've done it multiple times, and at some point you take for granted that they are getting it on the level that you're understanding it on. And then you have a conversation and you're like, oh, yes, this is still fairly new to you. We have to continue to peel back more and more layers of the onion. And the gist of what happened was, once I dialed in on this, that he was able to read the context of the situation, but that there was a lag time. And the lag time was not acceptable. And so we spent probably the next, hour really just drilling down on helping him read the sequencing of violence and understand it on a much deeper level. And at the end of 45 minutes, when I ran some scenarios, when I started, role playing and feeding different stimulus and different energy, so I was going through varied sequencing. So the person had to then read where I was at on the aggression continuum, and he was able to process at a much higher rate of speed. And in that moment, the dominoes, I know it, but for him, the dominoes fell, and at the end of it, a firework went off. And he recognized how much faster he became, how much better of a gunfighter he became. Again, I'm just trying to I'm beating this analogy to death, but I really, really like it. Because when you're out with your family, and this was kind of the underlying thread of our private, when you're out with your family, the importance of being able to be quick on the draw, to read the sequencing of violence becomes even more paramount. Like, you're by yourself. If you're by yourself, if I don't have my family with me and I'm facing violent predators, okay, listen, I see it as the same way, right? Because even if my kids aren't there, I'm not going to let this piece of shit take me away from my kids. So to me, the effort that I'm going to put in and the necessity to prevail in this situation is equal to me. But contextually speaking, if your kids were there, it puts a different element to it, right? It changes the context, because now you're like, well, listen, I don't want to die because I don't want this piece of shit to take me away from my wife and my kids, because that would be, that's going to alter the course of their life. But at the same time, if they're there, now I also understand that they're going to witness my murder. And so the context has shifted. And I share this because what it does is it really, I hope, puts the emphasis in the right place, where you say, you can't just be the fucking fastest. You can't just be the fastest. You can't just be the strongest. You can't just, rely on the fact that you have better technique or, better attributes. Those attributes have to be funneled. You can have gunpowder and you can have, a casing and you can have the tip of the bullet. But if you don't put it all fucking together, you don't have a bullet. Like, it doesn't have the same lethalness. So the sequencing of violence, it just hit me, and I thought, wow, this is something I want to talk about, because I don't know. I mean, a lot of people I don't think understand speed. I think they have a very singular conception of it. And I'm going to let you guys jump into this, but I'm just going to read the definition of speed, right? You look up the definition of speed, and it says the rate at which someone is able to move or operate. Now, I put a tremendous amount of emphasis on the latter. I train, I have a lot of specific training that I do to make sure that I am operating at a high level of speed. I do far less, and I have a far less of a worry about how fast I move. And that's what I want to break down tonight. I want to talk about how we are training for speed, what speed means to us. I think the role that it plays when you're weaponizing for violence, not when you're just preparing for a fight, okay, a competition or anything like that. So I'll hit the pause button. I'll throw it over to you guys. What do you guys think of the analogy, and what are your kind of first initial thoughts on speed?
Yeah, when you first started talking about speed, kind of two things hit me. I think two misconceptions that a lot of people have. One being that speed is equivalent to effectiveness. And that's kind of what you've been hammering on, is like just being quick, just being fast in and of itself, it's nothing. You know what I mean? To go back to the gunfighter analogy, you mentioned accuracy, and it's like, if you're the quickest draw, but you shoot yourself in the foot, well, who cares? Like, you're completely ineffective. So I think a lot of people misconceive speed as being effective. Just being fast as being effective is just as good. Yep. It's not. I think the other misconception when it comes to speed is people also tend to use it as a mask where they're trying to make up for the lack of effectiveness, the lack of the skill, that kind of thing. So I think you see that a lot in people's training is they tend to try and almost, and it's not even conscious necessarily, but they're trying to make up for a lack of skill, capability, all that by just going faster because then they don't feel it. Other people don't see what they're lacking. So I think those are two really common misconceptions when it comes to speed. So that was sort of the first two things that hit me. And then, like, again, you've been talking about now for however long this has been, but I think, speed is no different than anything we talk about. We don't look at speed from a tool context. We don't look even at it from a tactical or a tactic, standpoint. We look at it from strategy. So if someone says to us, like, how can you use speed to your advantage? Well, yeah, it's got nothing to do with tools or techniques. It has everything to do with strategy. So I'm just agreeing with you and just reiterating what you said is like, how do you use speed as a strategy in violence? Well, you have to understand what violence is, right? It really just comes back to being able to read aggression, studying violence, understanding violence is its own language, and your ability to interpret what's actually happening. The faster you can do that, the more effective you're going to be.
Yeah, 100%. Brad?
Yeah, I had a lot of things that kind of came up. A lot of speed is something that we've talked about tremendously in our training. The disease that it is in that context. Speed is a thing. It is not the thing. And I agree with everything that Dustin said. Um, One of the things that you said was that being quick to read the sequence of events, and that made me think of speed as we know it, right? And if we think of speed, we think of economy of motion. Well, we think of economy of motion. Yeah. Some people think of just being fast, but it made me think of that how quickness to read the sequence of events made me think of economy of thinking. I just made that up. I was just thinking, but I'm like, yeah, it's like how quickly is your economy of motion? How quickly is your economy of thinking of the event horizon, right? Mm-hmm. So that was just one thought that came in my head. Another one that kind of came into my thought process that ties into the economy of thinking was that you ever have where you can't say no? Like those things you're out with your spouse or whatever. It's like anything goes. You can only say yes. Anybody has an idea, you can only say yes. But when you think about what is happening in front of you, it's like, I know we talked about denial in the last episode, but it's like, just say yes. Whatever's in front of you, like, yeah, okay, I believe 100%, yes. So to be quick to read the sequence of events, it's like, well, just don't say no. Just say yes to absolutely everything that they're doing, because it's like, that is, you're just accepting what is happening in front of you. So that's just where my mind went quickly on those.
No,
those
it's
points.
good. And there's lots of little points to this as we start to kind of try to peel these layers back and talk about things more specifically. One of the things you talked about, you just mentioned real quick, Brad, was about speed being a disease. And one of the things in our training is that, I remember hearing this from the fucking day one, man. Paul would always tell me, he goes, everybody fights too close and they go too fast. It was always those two things. People don't understand the power of range. They don't know how to manage the distance, manage the damage, and they go too fucking fast. And in our training, we're always telling everybody constantly, slow the fuck down, slow this down, slow down, slow down. I mean, it is because, it amplifies your training when you understand and learn how to take out speed. Now that's one way that we put it in is to really get people slow as smooth, smooth as fast, the precision, the accuracy, all of it just accelerates and turbocharges all your attributes when you start slowing down. To most people don't get this. It is infinitely harder to do something at a world-class level and slowly than it is to do something at a okay level fast. Like, you know what I mean? When guys don't know what the fuck they're doing, they will hide it with speed. Like, they just try to move as fast as they fucking can. Their brain gets going fast, their body gets going fast, their physiology is going fast. And in combat situations, it's the last fucking thing you need. Your body's gonna be flooded with hyperoxygenated blood. You're gonna have adrenaline coursing through it, the chemical cocktail that is being released in your body. You are never gonna have to fucking worry about being too fucking slow. Do you get what I mean? Like, you're never going to have to worry about that. Yes, people can experience slow time motion. People can experience perceived freezing, like paralysis. They're not really fucking frozen. They're just overwhelmed. But adrenaline, like the body produces a chemical, the chemicals that allow you to fucking move at an accelerated rate of speed. So speed is a disease. Speed is something that is used to mask. If you are world class, you can do it slow, you can do it methodical, you can do it fucking precise. You can everybody can see every nuance of how you're moving your body, they can see the intent in your eyes. So speed absolutely is a disease, and you gotta learn to take speed out. And when speed is not there as a mask, you have no choice but to become surgically fucking proficient. Right? You can't hide your deficiencies, and in training, the last thing you want to do is have ego and hiding deficiencies. So that is 100% true. And if I go back, let's just throw a couple things out there, because a lot of people will just unilaterally think of speed as one-dimensional. But there's like 5-6 different types of speed, and I'm just going to go through a couple of them. But like, you have initiation speed. Like, how fast can you go from zero to initiate a motor action? Right? You have alteration speed. So if you initiate a motor reaction and something changed, the stimulus changed, the target changed, something changed, how fast can you alter? Right? Those are like, so you have initiation speed, you have alteration speed, you have overall performance speed. So just how fast are you literally overall? Like, how explosive can you be? So there is different types of speed. And again, if we're coming to this thing that if you want to be a modern day fucking gunfighter and you want to be at the level of like the Billy the Kid type shit, you need to be able to process things fast, because when you can process the sequencing of violence, that allows you to either seize the fucking initiative, right? Okay, so either seize it or fucking establish it. Again, I'm walking out, I come out of the, superstore, and I got my kids with me, and you got groceries in your arms, and you and your wife are talking, and you're running errands. So you're like, okay, well, we got this, and where are we going to go next, and blah, blah, blah. So your mind is on the hamster wheel of life's commitments. But in the background, the fucking radar is going, right? You're conditioned yellow. You have a threat-based perception of the world. You're weaponized. You've trained it. Your reticular activator in your brain is always on the hunt for danger, like a guard dog. The guard dog's at the park playing, but its fucking senses are still activated. So if it smells a threat, sees a threat, feels a threat, perceives anything, it fucking automatically, its ears shoot forward, it activates. And that's how we are. So we're all living life and we're talking or whatever, but all of a sudden, boom, intuition hits us and we start looking, we start scanning. And all of a sudden you look over and you see a fucking car, and the car's running, it's got 3-4 guys in it, and you happen to look at the license plate, and the license plate's got duct tape over it. And right away, your brain's processing, right? Why the fuck does he have duct tape on his license plate? Well, maybe because he's about to do some shit, and he doesn't want someone to take down his fucking license plate. Okay, so I'm just giving an example of what are we talking about when we're talking sequencing of violence. You're seeing things, information. You're seeing it, you're hearing it, you're feeling it. Right? The sensory faculties are constantly pulling in information. It might be a sideways glance that a guy gives you from 50 feet away. The quicker that we recognize this shit, they haven't even got their blueprint activated yet. Right? These bad guys, they're planning shit. They're organized. They got a blueprint. They haven't even begun to activate the blueprint. You recognize one of the sequencing that tells you, fuck, man, this is scene 1. I've got a real strong feeling that scene 2, 3, 4 ain't going to be fucking good. And right away, we divert our family. Right away, we engage them and fucking catch them by surprise, hit them on the fucking blood. Context would determine the content of what we do, but that's the quick draw. But I'll tell you something, it's not fucking sexy. It's not sexy like standing there with your hand on your fucking gun, over your gun, and waiting for the guy to see you, lock eyes, say some fucking really cool Clint Eastwood type fucking shit, and, go ahead and make my day, and then wait for the fucking draw. And then show the guy, not only I'm fast, I'm fucking accurate, I got giant fucking balls, I got nerves of steel, I faced you fucking down. Like, that's sexy. That's the Hollywood movie version. But sitting, in a training center and having somebody, it's basically having somebody go green light, yellow light, red light, green light, yellow light, red light, advanced green, flashing green. What do all these signs mean? And it's like, people can get bored because they can't see the fucking real world value. When you understand the sequences, when you can read the road signs, right? This makes you so fucking fast. It makes you so fast. And here's the other part of it. We always talk speed, surprise, violence of action. Those are the 3 criteria. I think people, even if they understand them, they're shallow with it. Speed is not about being fast. Every time I say to people, speed, surprise, violence of action, I know people automatically, the brain goes, you speed, yeah, got to be fast. No, you don't got to be fast. Not the way you think. Not fast in how you move, fast in how you fucking operate, fast in how you process, fast in how deep your domain knowledge is, and how deep and how many experiences you've had by reading the sequences. Real fucking time. Right? When you have that type of speed, you gain certainty. You see it for what it is, and you're like, fuck this, something needs to be done. This guy's mid to high level escalation. This shit's gonna happen. We're approaching the crisis, and we're approaching it at 100 miles an hour with no fucking brakes. Awareness, if you can avert, and if not, fucking attack. So awareness to attack. You've already processed, there's no averting. There's no de-escalation, there's no removing myself, right? It's gonna fucking happen. When you have that type of processing ability, that type of speed, you can either seize the initiative away from them, okay, right? Because if they've already started to act out their fucking plan of evil, if they've already started to act that out, that type of certainty, that type of speed can rip the fucking initiative right away from them. And here's the thing I love, because the bad guy almost always, 99.99% of the time, has the fucking initiative. And why does he have the initiative all the time?
Because he's the bad guy.
Yeah, he's choosing error. He's choosing to violently assault you. So they don't typically take a poll and be like, when will this work for you, Greg? When can you fit me in your schedule so I can assault you and your family? Like, typically they don't ask.
The good guys aren't attacking you.
Yes.
They're not the ones starting anything.
They are fucking choosing the time, the location, the intensity with which they'll come at you, the fucking equipment, tools, the numbers of people that they bring to the situation. They are fucking choosing it all. Every single element, every single ingredient that they are choosing is giving them a stronger, deeper, more powerful initiative. And people got to understand this. Initiative, the best analogy I have, the initiative is a fucking wave with a rip current. And if you've ever spent any time in the ocean around serious fucking waves, you are nothing compared to the power of a fucking wave. The wave will fuck you up super fucking fast. So bad guys, time, location, intensity, duration, tools, numbers, they choose all this shit. They're just trying to create a fucking tsunami. And that's why they don't give a fuck about fighting skills. Fighting skills are ridiculous. That's like me saying, like, give me the gear. What are you going to do? I'm going to fucking stand in the ocean. I'm going to fucking face that wave. Oh, okay. Dude, can we buy tickets? When does this happen? I'd love to watch this shit. Because all the bad guy's going to do is go, fuck this clown, man. Look at that guy. That guy's actually, like, he's a pretty big guy. He's got this. Fuck it. Let's tsunami this shit. Guaranteed they can. Go ahead, Brad.
You know what? I have to jump in on the whole ocean wave thing because, it's one thing because when you're talking about, give me the gear, I'm going to stand in front of the ocean. I'm like, I'm going to take on that wave. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but you're trying to take on the wave. Yeah. And I remember being in Hawaii and we would sit on the beach and it was wicked because every 30 minutes, this wave would come with not like a big crashing wave, but it was a volume of water that would just come onto the beach, unsurprisingly, right? And it was just fucking taking people out. And it was like, but the thing is, the difference is between the guy that's like, I'm taking on the wave, is like, yeah, you think you're taking on the wave. This was a wave that was just demolishing people. Yeah. Like, out at the knees and fucking didn't see it coming. And that's exactly what violence is, right? You're out walking on the beach, and then wham, you get hit by this wave, and it just takes you out and your camera and all your shit into the ocean.
Fuck. If we're telling stories, man, when we were down and training in Southern California one time, we're training right on the fucking beach. It's absolutely beautiful. And after training, we got Trevor Hardy. I'm going to throw Trevor under the bus on his story. We got Trevor Hardy with us. I mean, dude's super jacked, ripped up. Not only that, but he was a lifeguard for many years. He was, I can't remember, like a 6-time national swim champion. And this he's like, I'm going out in the water. And we're like, dude, you're getting a little out there. These waves are fucking crashing. And he's, great swimmer. He gets out there, and we see him standing there, and we're literally like 10 feet from him, sitting on the beach watching this guy. He's 10 feet from us. He's knee-deep water, and this wave comes in, and next thing you know, we just see wave, no Trevor, and then a whole bunch of churning water, and the water's being pulled back out, and we're like, fuck, where is this guy? And like panic, like we're like, fuck, he's gone. Like we can't see him. We are looking like everywhere. Like 6 of us are like, holy fuck, like this guy's being sucked out. We can't see him. And we hear this screaming from about a fucking kilometer down the beach. And we look over and he comes out. Sunglasses are gone. His hat's fucking gone. His shorts are half off. He's just fucked up. The ocean took him and tumbled him and pushed him about a kilometer down. And it took, like he hit the beach like exhausted, like so close to dying. And yet he's this like, you know, and he is like a professional fighter. He is a world-class martial artist and a great athlete and swimmer. And that's what happens in violence, right? And the speed, if we bring it back, the image is in my head now. If we bring it back to the analogy, you got to see the sequencing, man. If you see that wave coming, you're doing shit. Right, you know, surfers know how to dive into the wave. They dive under the wave. They don't fight the wave, right? They don't fight the wave. They circumvent the wave's objectives, so to speak. And that's what we do in violence. You can't fight the man. You gotta destroy his objective. And so if people understand that, man, now you see where you literally can become this like modern gunfighter, man. You don't have to be the quickest physically. Okay, but you got to be able to read the sequencing, and it's not the sexy work. Okay, so that's the one part of it, and how we work that is we never there's always a front end. Most people when they're training are training the mid sequence, meaning the action sequence. Like they're training the whether if it's conventional, they're training the punches and kicks and shooting in and takedowns and or whatever style system you're doing. That's what they're training. And they often, some people when they say, oh, we're reality based, they will mention the pretext. Oh yeah, but of course, we would have, you got to read the signs and you see this and blah, blah, blah. And, when it's warranted and blah, 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 then we do this. But they just spend 99% of the time working the action sequence. There is a precursor and there is post-action. And so you have to train all three and they have to be integrated. So we don't train the action sequences. We don't do our flashbangs. We don't do our unassisted headbutts, eye shots. We don't do whatever tool we happen to use. The smash and grab, the structures, the elbows. We don't do any of that shit without having that connected to the sequencing, the precursor. That way, every single rep, every repetition, every deep dive, every time you work the body mechanics, the weight transfer, the placement, the accuracy, the follow-through, the emotional content, every time you're working that mid-action sequence, it has been preceded by the sequencing of violence, forcing you to recognize and build a neuroassociation, stimulus. So what's the sequencing? Stimulus response, stimulus response. Here's the energy, here's the pressure, here's the stimulus, here's the body language, here's the communication, here's the behavior patterns, the stimulus, boom. And that triggers it. And so you become very, very fast at reading the sequencing. Then you don't have to be as fast physically. You don't have to be as strong physically. You don't need to have the superior attributes. Now, reading the sequencing and getting quick, that is also an attribute. So I mean the conventional attributes. You don't have to be the fastest, the strongest, the most durable, all of this type of stuff. But ultimately, when you're training properly, you will be the person who has the highest level, highest mix of attributes. But you're working the key attributes that really, really make an impact, right? Okay, that make a great gunfighter, so to speak. Okay, so that part of it, I think is important for people to understand. I think a little bit here, if we talk about So maybe I should finish the thought here that speed, surprise, violence of action. When you have the speed that comes from the certainty, reading the sequencing of violence, and you can act on that certainty, and you can seize or initiate the initiative, like you can make that happen. How does that impact surprise?
Can you say the question again?
Yes, absolutely. When you have the speed that comes, let's say, from reading the sequencing so quickly, how does that impact the element of surprise? Because what is surprise?
Yeah, I think a big part of that is because a lot of times a violent criminal is almost going to expect you to react according to a certain set of, well, I guess his expectations from previous experience, that sort of thing. Like if they're coming in, trying to posture and intimidate you and try to get compliance from you, and do you know what I mean? And like they expect to go through a certain amount of a routine, they expect a certain result from that. And when you understand what's happening far better than they expect you to, you're gonna act sooner on the timeline. So that's how you're gonna get the surprise, is because they are expecting to go through some sort of a back and forth or whatever it is. It depends on the situation, obviously. Yeah. But I think that's essentially what it is it allows you to act far sooner than what they may expect.
100%.
Yeah, that's where like the timeline went to my head. The only other thing that I think I'd build on that would be intent. Because when you're able to see the event horizon and you're able to understand exactly what's happening, then you have the utmost amount of certainty of, yeah, you got to fucking either do something, you got to grab your family and you got to go, or you have to take action, you have to engage, or you have to, whatever the action is, you know that this is happening. This is real. This is in front of you. This has to be dealt with either by egressing or taking action. So you have the intent to interrupt the timeline and do things on your terms and have the certainty of the actions that you need to take, whatever the action needs to be, right?
Yeah, I think the exact opposite of what me and Brad just said is what us three have seen time and time and time again when you put new people through scenarios. When we did the 3-day core induction, so someone's starting their journey Friday morning, and then by Sunday afternoon they're going through scenarios. I mean, the thing we saw over and over and over again was people, as we call it, benefiting of the doubt themselves to death. And that's the exact opposite of what we're talking about tonight, is like people couldn't see the event horizon that Brad's talking about. People couldn't quickly think their way through what they were seeing in front of them, like you've been talking about. And so they would hesitate and they wouldn't take action. They would be acting further down the timeline than even what the attacker would expect. Half the times as a feeder in those scenarios, you get to a point where I'm just going to hit this guy in the face because I've given him a proper escalation through, the aggression continuum, and he's missed every opportunity to go first. So now I get to go. And so you end up hitting the person and then explain after what happened. But I think it's rampant in people is not being able to understand what's happening and therefore acting so much later, and just the complete opposite of the benefit of surprise.
Yeah.
It's almost that getting punched in the mouth or whatever the physical act is the certainty that people need to make a decision. Oh, fuck, I'm being attacked.
Yeah.
It's like, no, back up. You were a kid. This event horizon, you were actually being targeted 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But you failed to recognize the pins, right? The attack started 15 minutes ago, but you, again, benefited the doubt yourself to death. You wait till you got punched in the mouth. Like, I'm under attack. This motherfucker jumped me. It's like, no, wait, back up.
Yeah.
I know we've had that conversation,
Yeah.
but it's like that's the physical act is where people think they get the most certainty, but you're nothing but reactionary.
Yeah. Check your mailbox. I fucking hand wrote you a letter, mailed it a week ago. you didn't fucking get it, right? So then you get
a week. I know it takes longer.
Yeah, week. That's moving quick. Yeah. I love you. You nailed the word that I was really hoping you would throw out there, and you guys nailed it. And most people get the surprise. You know what I mean? Like if you are so quick with the sequencing, you are just in action. Right? Remember, action, reaction. There's no reaction faster than an action. So it gets us into action, whatever the fucking action is. Okay, getting the fuck out of there or attacking. So when you're that fast into action, the element of surprise, of course, is like Dustin said, well, they just didn't expect it. Like it's not in line, it's not congruous with what their blueprint was. So they have that physiological, like startle response. Like it creates a mental stall. Okay, because remember, the reaction model, somebody has to perceive something, then they have to analyze it and evaluate it, meaning, is this a fucking threat? What level of threat is this? Those two processes happen. Then they have to formulate a response to that, and then that gets downloaded and moved into a motor action. So that's the survival reaction model processing time. That's the loop. Doesn't matter good guy, bad guy. They have to go through the loop. So that element of surprise, that happens, right? It creates a mental stall. But what Brad said to add on to that, Dustin brought up the physiological startle response, mental stall. Brad went one step further and said, no, you know what else? Intent. Intent is fucking conviction. Like the surprise, because we see what we see. We see it for what it is. We see it. We fucking accept it. And then we get into action. And when you go into action, not only are you interrupting their processing, they're interrupting their physiology, okay, creating that mental stall, but you are doing it like you dropped the fucking hammer. Like situation warranted. You go 10. This is violent, imminent, grievous bodily harm, asocial violence. We're not talking antisocial aggression. We're not talking ego-based fights, asocial violence. You go fucking 10. Well, how the fuck do you go 10? How do you go 10 and have the moral and legal understanding and belief that you are 1000% fucking justified in this? Well, that's because you understand the sequencing. So you are reading it. Sit at a red light, and when that light turns green, do you have any fucking doubt that it's okay for you to go? That doesn't mean you just blindly hit the gas because somebody can run their red light. But you fucking know that it is your right of way. Is there any doubt in that? No. Like I said, you don't just always hit the gas, you fucking look, because not everybody's going to follow those rules. But is there any doubt that it is your legal right to move forward?
Nope.
100%. None. Zero. I've never sat at a green light and had a moral fucking complex or had a moral fucking breakdown of like, should I go? Can I go? Will I go? And that happens to people every fucking day when it comes to aggression and violence on every fucking level. Because people don't understand their rights. They don't understand the legal system and how it operates in Canada. They don't even know what their own true beliefs are. They don't know, they haven't made their moral stand list. Meaning, what fucking hills am I prepared to die on, go to jail for? What, like, where am I at with this shit? So for us, when I read the sequencing, not only can we get off the fucking mark fast, get into action, seize the initiative, which interrupts their physiology, creates a mental stall, but when you do that with the fucking conviction and the absolute belief, like, I don't even know what I can use to hold up to people, like of a fanatic. You get what I mean? Like someone that just believes like you cannot sway me. When a light turns green, I get to go. You can't convince me otherwise, right? And that's a kind of a weak analogy, but you get where I'm going for. When you go at someone trying to take your life or the life of one of your loved ones, when you go at them with that level of certainty, that conviction of belief, that is going to surprise the fuck out of them, because very few people will go at another human being when they perceive their life's in jeopardy. Very few will go at them with no psychic hindrance, no emotional hindrance, no little rubber bands of conflicting beliefs, no little subconscious concern or worry for what will the outcome will be. Will I lose my job? Will I get in trouble for this? Will my family ever speak to me again? Will they think I'm a horrible person? And you might sit there in denial and go, who would think that? You got some guy trying to fuck with your kids and you take that guy down. What family member would judge you for that? What other man would judge you for that? Lots of people. Because at the end of the day, if you take someone out, if you take a man's life, I don't care how evil he is, there's a lot of people that'll never look at you in the eye the same way again because you've done something that they can't comprehend, something that they've been told from birth is unforgivable. You have taken a human's life. And the intellectual knowledge that it was morally and legally warranted will not change how they feel. That's going to hit them on a subconscious core level, and they're gonna be terrified around you. They're gonna be uneasy around you. All of this shit is what happens. So in most people, they haven't worked the process. They haven't weaponized their mind, their beliefs, their emotions. When you are working the sequencing of violence, you are educating yourself. Like I said, it ain't sexy work, but you are educating yourself so that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what you're seeing is a genuine threat to your life or the life of a loved one. If we can avert it, we will fucking avert it. But if we cannot, we will fucking attack. So speed, surprise, and if you got those two, that's what feeds and builds real violence of action. How do you have violence of action without those two things? To me, people say, oh, it's speed, surprise, and violence of action like they're three separate entities. Like, you want all three, but like, yes, you could say violence of action could just be committing a ruthless act. You take a knife and stab it through someone's eye socket. That was violence of action. Yeah, it was violence. And yes, you took an action. But for me, I'm not a homicidal fucking maniac. I'm not interested in just practicing violent acts. It's the speed, surprise, and violence of action. The speed comes from being able to read the processing, the sequencing of violence, so that I know what my legal and moral grounds are. That allows me to move into action because what I'm seeing is asocial, right? Imminent grievous bodily harm or death. It's reasonable for me to believe this, to me, my family, other innocent people. That speed not only will allow me to interrupt their physiology and create a mental stall, but it will also catch them on the fucking blind side because at that point, I'm 100% justified in what I'm doing. No psychic hindrance, nothing pulling me back. I've made peace. I've mastered the tool of violence. I'm okay with violence. And that creates the violence of action. And I see that integration. And to me, it all comes back, not all of it, but speed is a massive part of that. But I think just in the conversation we've had so far, I hope people get like, this whole podcast is going to be about speed. And we haven't been talking about like how to get my hands moving faster, how to get my punching combinations tighter, how to get my kicks quicker. Like how can I get my combinations so that I can go from my hands to my feet and the transition from hands to feet to shoot. Like, you get what I mean? And that's where the conversation about speed would come from. It would come from athletic performance standpoint. And there's nothing wrong with those conversations. Man, we know more about athletic performance now than we probably ever have in human history. So yes, absolutely. If you want to build more fast twitch muscle fiber, become more explosive, you want to, all that stuff. There is information upon information to physically improve yourself. Great, perfect. You should totally do that. We do some of that as well. I do some of that as well. But I want to talk about what few people are talking about. And I want people to understand that speed is way more than one dimensional. It's not just about how fast you move, it's about how you operate. And that to me is, again, it's not the sexy work, right? Again, you work to be more explosive. People see it, fuck, that guy's fast. Well, you see how fast, how high, all that shit. It's not the sexy work, but it's the work that'll fucking pay the biggest dividends in a life and death situation. So, I don't know. Anything else you guys feel like you want to throw in on this?
I think just to highlight, like, this kind of falls into the surprise, but really it's the whole package. But just to kind of highlight that, like, the violent criminal, I mean, going back to the idea of them being caught off guard, them not expecting, this sort of response to the view, it's like, I think it's worth sort of mentioning like just how unexpected it is.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee if they thought you were going to resist at all, and certainly if they thought you were going to resist with the kind of intent we're talking about,
Yeah.
there's no way they would have picked you to be their victim.
Yeah.
Like they chose you for a reason.
Yeah,
They
100%.
chose you because they thought you were an easy target. So if you're the exact opposite because you're bringing speed, surprise, intent, violence of action to the situation, I mean, that is not on their radar, and it's guaranteed. It's
Yeah.
guaranteed not on their radar. Because if it was, they would have never tried to assault you.
It doesn't match the predator optics. That's not what they're looking for.
No,
They're not looking for
it
the
makes
toughest
no
fight.
sense.
They're not looking for a hard assault, 100%. It's a great point, too. And here's the thing. There is, this is why, like, when you train, when you weaponize, there's a biosignature that starts to emanate from you. I mean, I don't know. That's my word for it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, how you stand, how you walk, how you carry yourself, how you look at complete strangers as you walk down the street. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah,
because you mentioned this, I think, last week. You talked about, I don't know, I think you threw out a number about how many times you've had to step in and intervene in some sort of a violent or aggressive altercation in the last couple of years. And I think you said like 10 out of 10 or whatever it was. You're like, it's never been directed at me.
Yep.
Why? Because of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because the violent criminal picks up on it. They start to get that. They have intuition too.
Yep. 100%.
So they start to pick up like, this is not an easy target.
Yeah.
So that's why you find yourself intervening on someone else's behalf because they weren't emanating that sort of an energy. So you're stepping in. So I think you're 100% right that the more and more you train, the more you understand violence, the way less likely it will happen to you
100%.
unless you're intervening on someone else's behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. The biosignature, and just to be really crystal clear, that is not walking around. I don't walk around, and the only analogy that I can have that I think people can like see right away, I don't walk around like I'm a cop. I don't walk around like I'm head of security. I don't walk around like I'm military or ex-military, meaning I don't walk around, and I'm not saying that every cop, I'm saying I don't walk around posturing that way. Like it's not walking around and projecting this tough guy, you know. Matter of fact, I feel like my biosignature is the exact opposite. Like I feel like I walk around and like I like eye contact in the sense that like I look at people in the face. It's that openness. Like I'm not hardened that way. Like I like it. I feel like I'm approachable. I look at people. I smile at people. I say fucking hello to people. Like, you know, and I know that there's still some people, but I'm also tall and stuff, but you know, for some people they still have been like, they can feel, but it's not coming from a sternness. And that's what I meant by the military soldier. It's not the 10,000 yard stare. Like for all three of us and any of us, like when you're out, like we're not, right? Like it's smiling, laughing, engaging people. Like I'm not afraid of conversation or like, you know, you got a homeless guy and he's walking over and you know he's coming to ask change. I'm not trying to not look at the guy, right? I'm open. Like my demeanor comes from a place of empathy, not sympathy always, but empathy. Meaning I'm looking at the world through other people's eyes. You know, what do they need? Where are they at? And so I think it's important that training and weaponizing should not be hardening to you. It should not make you this stoic, you know, not that there's not times for that. But if anything, like I use that guard dog analogy all the time. You can be the best trained guard dog in the world, no matter how well he's trained and how fierce and vicious and professional that dog is, it never makes him less of a dog. You get what I mean? Chasing the frisbee, chasing the sticks, running and playing, licking his balls, eating shit. He's a fucking dog. Sniffing ass, like he's a dog. Like he's going to do what dogs do. But the second that it's time to punch in and clock in and go to work, motherfucker's a pro. Right? But at the end of that, still a dog. That dog can take beats. That dog can get shot and stabbed, and if it lives, it'll still be a dog. Like, you know, you see Cesar Millan all the time. Dogs have short-term memory. They don't live in the past. They live in the now. That's how they rehabilitate dogs. Like they're not. Doesn't matter if they're beaten. You know, they'll let go. If you can let go, I'm no dog whisperer, obviously, but it's another analogy. Anyways, yeah. So I had a note down here, and I almost feel like I shouldn't talk about it because it'll just be throwing something in the works. Fuck it, I'm not going to mention it because it'll just go. It'll either put me on a tangent or it'll take us off on a tangent. So we're gonna pull the shoe
Save it.
tight and tie the laces for tonight, and we're gonna wrap it up here. So any final things on Faster Than Billy the Kid? Our talk about speed.
I think just on speed is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
There's a surface where everybody it's not what you see.
Yeah.
You could see speed, but that speed we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
There's a different type of speed. We talked about conviction. We talked about
100%.
certainty. We talked about understanding and event horizon, those types of things.
Yeah.
But speed is not what we think it is.
Yeah. Well said. Dustin?
Yeah, no, I think we did a pretty good job, I believe, of laying it out there and reiterating the points. And like Brad just summed it up, it's two different types of speed. So yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I'll end with this. We have these cliche sayings, right? There's never going to be a crowd on the extra mile, and you're the advantage. If you sit there and you go, listen, I'm not going to be the biggest, strongest guy, best guy. If someone attacks me, I'm probably not going to be the biggest, strongest, best. The greatest advantage are always hidden in the unsexy work, right? No crowd in the extra mile. You know why? Because it's not sexy. Muhammad Ali said, right, a champion is built away from all the fucking lights and all the press and all the adoration and all the money and all the trappings that come with all that stuff. It's fucking 5 o'clock in the morning doing the work when it's fucking freezing out and stuff. It's like reading sequencing, learning to see the sequencing, learning to make yourself faster in how you operate, not just in how you move. It's not sexy work. If this podcast has done anything, hopefully it's going to spark something in you to really get excited about the unsexy work, right? Deep dive that, figure out what that is when it comes to speed and many other areas, and really go to town on that. And that's what'll save your life. That's where you're going to get the advantage over the bad guys, the violent criminals. So, and of course, as always, if we can do anything to play a role in helping you achieve that, then that is our purpose, our passion, that is our mission. So please stick with us, join us, make sure you share this, like, comment, head over, listen, subscribe. We are growing this. It is starting to happen. We're starting to gain some real momentum with this. But that only happens if you guys head over to wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcast, subscribe, and leave us a review. It takes less than 90 seconds. If you feel like we deserved it, leave us a 5-star review. Throw down a few comments about what you got out of it, what you like about it. And that is what helps perpetuate this and helps us to reach a lot of good men that wouldn't otherwise find us, that this literally could save their life someday. We're documenting our journey as we move through this, becoming and living as weaponized men. And we're just so grateful for your guys' support. We're grateful to have you guys on this journey with us. And, that's it. So thank you guys so much. Follow us on Facebook. Check out, download, like our podcast, whatever you got to fucking do there. Show us some love. We appreciate it. And that's it, everybody. Brad, Dustin, thank you guys so much, as always, your time. I appreciate it. And that's it, everybody. Stay safe, stay weaponized. We're going to chat again real soon, everybody. Good night.